Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about the American comedy film Bad Teacher. A lot of interesting things are waiting for you. Enjoy your viewing. Elizabeth is a middle-aged woman who works as a teacher in a primary school. Given this, one might assume that she is very responsible and caring, but the opposite is true. In fact, Elizabeth is a careless and rude woman who swears at her students and forces them to watch movies in class. Most of the time she is under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Elizabeth has only one goal in life: to marry a rich man and suck up all his wealth. Now Elizabeth is dating the son of an extremely wealthy businessman, and things are going well. So one day she arrogantly resigns from her job at the school because she no longer needs the job. However, when she returns home, she finds her boyfriend and his mother there. A shocking turn of events occurs. The boyfriend says he no longer wants to marry her. He finally realized that Elizabeth only cares about his money and nothing else. All these months, she's been stealing money from his wallet, office, and even his mom's room to buy herself expensive things. Elizabeth tries to explain that this is not the case, but he does not listen and walks away. This puts Elizabeth in a difficult position. Not only has her dream of becoming rich been shattered, but she is now out of a job. Elizabeth tries to look for a job for several months, but since she doesn't have much talent, no one hires her. In the end, she swallows her pride and returns to her old employers, her elementary school. On her first day, she runs into her old nemesis, Amy Squirrel. They exchange hurtful words. It is obvious that they both hate each other with a passion. Afterwards, Elizabeth heads to her classroom, where the students are happy to see her back. However, she doesn't care. She doesn't even teach them, but instead starts eating breakfast there. When the students begin to demand a new lesson, she turns on the TV and makes them watch a movie. She says it will help improve their grades. After that, she covers her face with her jacket and falls asleep right in the classroom. During lunchtime, Elizabeth makes up with her only friend at school. Lynn is also a colleague of the teacher. They talk about their lives, and Elizabeth tells them that she plans to have breast augmentation surgery to become even more beautiful and attract rich guys. Meanwhile, we are introduced to a physical education teacher, Russell. From the beginning, he is in love with Elizabeth, but she never notices him. That's because he lacks the one quality she looks for in a man: being rich. One day, a handsome boy named Scott comes to school to replace the teacher. When Elizabeth finds out that he is rich, she immediately starts hanging around him. She then cleverly gets him to tell her about his relationship and reveals that he is single. Scott tells her that he recently broke up with his girlfriend and even shows her a picture. When Elizabeth sees her, she becomes jealous because the girl has big breasts. She also assumes that Scott likes girls like her, so she sets out to have breast augmentation surgery. In the next scene, Elizabeth goes to the clinic and prepares to fill out a questionnaire for the surgery. But when she finds out that the procedure will cost her a whopping $9,000, she immediately stops. Elizabeth doesn't even have $50 in her account, so she'll have to wait for now. That night, she calls all her friends and acquaintances, hoping to get some donations for the surgery. However, since they all know her true nature, they just hang up on her. Elizabeth then goes back to her ex-boyfriend and demands that he pay her $9,000 as compensation for the breakup of their marriage. But even he refuses and disconnects the call, much to her chagrin. The next morning in class, when Elizabeth was passing the time as usual, one of her students approaches her and asks if she would like to wash her car. She goes on to explain that the whole class will be participating in the annual car wash event, and it will be a lot of fun. Elizabeth doesn't even listen to what she says, but when the student tells her that they made $6,000 last year, she thinks about it. Elizabeth asks which teacher is taking them to this event, and to her horror, she learns that it is none other than her nemesis, Amy. Despite the setback, Elizabeth doesn't want to waste such a great opportunity, so she heads to the principal's office and begins to seduce him with her looks. When he becomes aroused, she asks him to put her in charge of the car wash instead of Amy. To her delight, he agrees without hesitation. The next morning, Elizabeth goes to an event in the most revealing dress she could find. She starts washing cars, splashing a lot of water on her body. This shocks all the women around her, but the men are happy with what they see. Even a policeman is so fascinated by her beauty that he crashes his car into another. Afterwards, Elizabeth demands additional money from the men, claiming that her school is in dire need of extra funds for its students. Surprisingly, the plan works, and by the end of the day, she manages to earn about $10,000. Elizabeth gives half of it to the school and secretly keeps the other half for herself. Meanwhile, Amy finds out about this and goes to the principal in anger. He is using the restroom, so it is expected that he is furious at the sudden intrusion into his personal life. Amy claims that Elizabeth is stealing school funds and demands that she be punished. However, the principal says he can't do anything until he has hard evidence against her. The next day, the school holds its annual parent-teacher conference. As expected, there are many parents lined up in Elizabeth's classroom, as they are all outraged at the way their children are being taught. They confront Elizabeth and demand to know why she never teaches lessons, but always shows movies in class. In response, she simply says, "Don't tell me how to do my job." After a while, when the meeting is over, a concerned father approaches Elizabeth and secretly hands her $200, asking her to pay more attention to his son. This gives our cunning heroine another idea. She meets with all the parents in turn and takes money from them, promising that she will give their children personal attention. Now, Elizabeth is only $2,000 short of breast augmentation surgery. As the days go by, she continues to be irresponsible and completely neglects her students. Elizabeth also rejects her gym teacher, but despite Russell's advances, she strikes up a friendship with him. On the other hand, Amy has also begun to court the wealthy and handsome Scott. They become closer and are always together, which makes Elizabeth extremely jealous. One day she learns from her best friend, Lynn, that the school is going to hold a competition for teachers. Whoever helps their students get the best grades on the upcoming state test will receive a cash prize of $5,000. Hearing this, Elizabeth is ecstatic and decides to finally start teaching her students. So the next day, she comes to class early and makes everyone open their textbooks, shocking them. Elizabeth also makes sure to give them homework and daily assignments. She doesn't even let them talk to each other in class. This goes on for a few days, and the students improve their knowledge considerably. But it is still not enough to pass the state exam that will take place in a few days. Elizabeth, desperate to win the $5,000 cash prize, decides to take matters into her own hands. That evening, she dresses seductively and approaches a state professor named Carl, who is in charge of preparing and distributing the test questions. The plan works, and the man is immediately aroused and invites her back to his place. When he goes to his bedroom to prepare, Elizabeth slips sleeping pills into his drink, which Carl subsequently drinks and passes out. Elizabeth takes this opportunity to steal his questions and passes them on to her students. The next week, the test results come out, and all of her students pass with perfect scores, making her the winner. Elizabeth wins a $5,000 cash prize, and with that, she finally has enough money for her surgery. So, wasting no time, she heads to the clinic and makes an appointment. The next day, however, she is upset to learn that Scott has started dating Amy. They seem to be deeply in love with each other. Elizabeth is furious that her plans are being ruined once again by her nemesis, but she still doesn't want to give up. Next week, the school is taking all the students on a field trip, and Scott and Amy will be in charge of it. When Elizabeth finds out about this, she comes up with a cunning plan. She injects some chemical into an apple and leaves it on Amy's desk, knowing that she loves this fruit. As expected, Amy takes a bite of the apple without even asking where it came from. By the evening, her face is covered with a rash and allergies. Fearing that she might infect other students, the principal assigns Elizabeth to replace her on the field trip. In the next scene, Elizabeth takes full advantage of this opportunity and gets closer to Scott. They even have sexual intercourse in secret that night. Meanwhile, the jealous Amy starts looking for clues to expel Elizabeth from school. She goes to her classroom and tries to search her desk, but most of the drawers are locked. Amy switches her desk with Elizabeth's and then gets the janitor to open the drawers. To her delight, she finds the exam papers that Elizabeth stole from Carl. Amy then goes to the principal's office and tells him all about how Elizabeth cheated to help her students get good grades. This time, the principal believes her, but also says that he can only fire Elizabeth if Carl confesses to the story. That same day, Amy meets with Carl in his office and blackmails him into confessing. She warns him that if he doesn't, she will expose all his crimes publicly. The poor man reluctantly agrees. Elsewhere on the tour, Elizabeth is having a great time with the students. She even helps one of the boys who has been bullied become popular by lending him her underwear. When Russell sees this, he is very impressed. He praises Elizabeth for her generosity, and in return she compliments him on his honesty and good looks. Their romantic conversation is rudely interrupted when Amy arrives on the scene and taunts Elizabeth that she will soon be arrested. Hearing this, our heroine realizes that the stolen test papers have been found, so she comes up with her own plan. Upon returning home, she pays her roommate and asks him to deliver the package to Earl. When he receives the package and opens it, he finds several nude photos of himself that Elizabeth apparently took while he was out. Now she asks him to make a false confession, and in return, she will keep his photos secret. This puts Carl in a very difficult position, because both women are blackmailing him with their demands. But after much deliberation, he takes Elizabeth's side and lies that he has never even met her. Then Elizabeth steps forward and claims that someone in the school is using drugs. It turns out that she has already discovered that Amy has changed the desks in her absence. While the bottom drawer contains tests, the top drawer contains drugs. This drawer is still closed and Amy does not know what is in it. Because of Elizabeth's statement, several cops burst into the school and start searching all the desks. When it's Amy's turn, they find the drugs, and she is immediately taken into custody. This finally puts an end to the war between the two women. In the final scene, Scott approaches Elizabeth and asks her out, expressing that he likes her, but surprisingly, she turns him down. Elizabeth says that she already has someone smart, caring, and handsome in her life. Then she turns to Russell and kisses him passionately, thus starting their relationship. Elizabeth also cancels her breast augmentation surgery because she is no longer interested in attracting rich guys. The movie ends with Elizabeth promising to be a serious teacher from now on and help all of her students get excellent grades. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel and follow the news. Klontsak Recapped was with you. See you soon.